Hi everyone and welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And yesterday we were learning about crepes.
Absolutely. Crepes, of course, are from France. Well, yes, they are from France, but they actually originated in a part of France over there on the west side called Brittany. It is now part of France, but a long time ago it was independent. It was like its own unique kingdom that had its own rulers, and that is the time in which crepes were invented. And the story is one of those wonderful accidental stories of history where something happened and no one expected it.
Yeah. Now you have to take these kind of stories maybe with a pinch of salt. You know, people tell the story, but there's probably 8 or 10 other stories.
It was a long time ago.
Exactly. But the story is that a woman spilled porridge onto a hot cooking stone and just made the first pancake by accident, but it was delicious, so crepes became famous.
There you go. Now in Brittany, people still make crepes with the traditional buckwheat flour. But in other parts of France and generally around the world, wheat flour is used. I think it's one of those things where there's no rule, you don't have to make it one way. But if you go to Brittany, most of them will be made in the oldest way with buckwheat.
Okay, now the good thing about crepes is they can be filled with all kinds of ingredients. Sweet ones, savory ones, you just try whatever you like and it's probably going to taste good.
One kind of crepe, the amaretto crepe, comes in many layers and with many sweet fillings. So it might look a bit more like a cake and you might get a slice of it, but instead of having one crepe, you'll have many layers and that's a very nice thing. Although I think when you bite into it, everything kind of squishes out the side.
Oh, well.
So be careful.
Part of the fun.
Yeah.
But is this the one pancake to rule them all? Maybe not. We have a challenger from south of the border. Let's check him out.
Reading.
Crepe versus tortilla. The battle of the pancakes. Another type of pancake is the tortilla. Instead of being sweet, these Mexican pancakes are almost always used with savory ingredients. The tortilla dates back to as early as 500 BC. The name is Spanish for little cake, but it shouldn't be confused with a Spanish tortilla, which is a kind of potato dish. Tortillas are made from cornmeal or sometimes wheat flour. The wheat flour types are more common in northern Mexico and the US. Tortillas go stale quickly, so people often buy them fresh. Tortillas are so common in Mexico and other parts of Central America that they're a part of most meals. They are often dipped in liquids and stews. If you visit a Mexican restaurant, you'll likely see tacos. Tacos are tortillas folded around meat, beans, or cheese with a spicy sauce. Enchiladas are another commonly found dish. These are tortillas wrapped around a filling and baked under a sauce. Is this article making you hungry? If so, you should try a crepe or tortilla dish.
All right, so another type of pancake, and here we're using this word pancake just to describe any sort of thin food.
Floury food.
Using flour, and then you cook the flour and you get this thin, very thin, flat type of bread. Another type of pancake is the tortilla. So this is something similar. If you look at them on a plate, they do look similar. But of course, being from another part of the world and made in a different way, there are some important differences. So what is it about the tortilla?
Well, let's also find out where it comes from. This sentence is going to do it all. It says, instead of being sweet, these Mexican pancakes, so they're from Mexico, are almost always used with savory ingredients. So remember savory we looked at yesterday, it's saltier. So meats, cheeses, vegetables, those kind of things that will go in there. And here we saw the phrase instead of, and we use instead of to show how something is different from another thing. They're kind of similar, but in different ways. It's not this, it's that. It's not sweet, it's savory instead of sweet. I want tea instead of coffee. I'm from the UK instead of the US. it's just not the same thing.
Exactly. It's another option for the same thing. All right, so the tortilla, now let's find out about this. Now, the crepe was about 500 years old, right? From 1500s.
It was 12 and 13, wasn't it?
Oh,
So
12
it
and
was
13. Oh, okay.
700 or 800 years.
Oh, that was right. Brittany was part of France in the
Yes.
1500s. So it's about 700 or 800 years old. How about the tortilla? It's older. The tortilla dates back to as early as 500 BC
Wow.
or 500 BCE, as some people would write it. So that would be 2,500 years ago, 500 years before the year 0. So very, very old. That is apparently what historians say, or when historians say the tortilla dates back to. When we use this phrasal verb to date back to a time, we're basically showing that is when it started. That is how much time has passed from when it first began up until now, the present day. All right, so the idea of Christopher Columbus's discovery of America dates back to 1492. That is the date when it happened, and that is how much time has passed.
Okay, so what else do we learn about the tortilla? The name is Spanish for little cake.
Okay.
Okay, makes sense. But it shouldn't be confused with a Spanish tortilla, which is a kind of potato dish. That's right. I'm maybe more familiar with this. I've been to Spain a number of times, and their tortilla is a big egg and potato kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's quite hearty. It's quite filling. It's very, very nice. But it's very different from these thin flatbreads, which are the Mexican tortillas.
Yeah, you might get a Spanish tortilla in a tapas restaurant.
Yes,
It's often served.
it's almost like a cake piece.
Yes, a little piece of pie. It's often served cold, kind of like the potatoes dauphinois, the French dish.
Okay.
So it's very, very different, and you definitely wouldn't be filling this Spanish tortilla and wrapping it up.
No.
It is not that kind of
Yeah.
food.
So it's important not to confuse them.
Okay.
If you confuse things, now of course you could say you are confused, you just don't understand what's going on, but here we're using confused to mean to get two or more things mixed up, to think one thing is the other thing. We often use it, confuse A with B, to get two things confused. For example, we might say, the twins look almost exactly the same. So people often confuse one with the other, like, oh, hi, Jerry. Oh, you're not Jerry, you're Jake. He's Jerry. I always get you two confused. So we know that tortillas come from a different part of the world. They're older, they're served with savory ingredients more often. What else is different about them?
Well, you might expect that what they're made of would be different. Remember, even in France, crepes are made with different materials. In Brittany, it's buckwheat. The rest of France, it's wheat. Now, if we're going to Mexico, do they even have buckwheat growing there? That's an important question. It turns out no. Tortillas are made from cornmeal, or sometimes wheat flour. Yeah, traditionally corn or maize, M-A-I-Z-E, is what the native people in Central America, what is now Mexico, they used to eat, so it only makes sense that they would make their foods, a lot of their food out of corn or cornmeal. Now today, wheat is very available all around the world, so people do also use wheat. Cornmeal is basically coarse flour made from corn. So in the same way that you can make wheat flour out of little bits of wheat that you grow, you can get corn, you can dry it and then grind it up and you'll get a kind of flour, and that will be cornmeal.
So we'll also learn the wheat flour types are more common in northern Mexico and the US. Makes sense, wheat needs that kind of climate, corn needs a slightly hotter climate, so it's all to do with the best growing conditions. Here we use the adjective northern, meaning to the north or in the north of a particular place. Northern Mexico, the north bit of Mexico. For example, the northern part of Taiwan usually gets more rain during the winter.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Absolutely. Now, tortillas go stale quickly, so people often buy them fresh. You don't want to have yourself a stale tortilla. That would be no good. So I guess in Mexico, people probably buy these in the morning every day, maybe even right before the meal, you won't buy them and then keep them in your fridge for a week, because if you do, they'll go stale, and that's no good. Stale is an adjective that we use to talk about food that is no longer fresh. You might still be able to eat it. It won't poison you or anything, but it certainly won't taste that good. And if you buy something stale from a store, you might be quite disappointed. When we think of stale bread, we think of bread that's been left out for too long, and it's probably starting to get a little bit dried out. It won't be nice and soft like that new bread that you get just from the bakery. Also, though, in Taiwan, you might have experienced stale potato chips. When you open your potato chips, they should be dry, they should be crunchy. If you leave them out with the bag open and the air's all wet, your potato chips will get kind of soft and they won't have that nice crunch to them. So depending on the type of bread or the type of food you are eating, stale could mean slightly different things in the end, but it always will mean not fresh. Stale bread would be hard, stale potato chips would be soft, but either way, it's not the best way to eat that type of food because it's not fresh any longer. For example, the long type of French bread called a baguette goes stale very quickly. And yes, French people, like Mexican people with their tortillas, probably buy it every day to eat it so it's as fresh as possible.
So we talked about tortillas being served or eaten with savory ingredients. Let's get into that a bit more. We see in the article, tortillas are so common in Mexico and other parts of Central America that they are a part of most meals. There is a word for this. It's called a staple, S-T-A-P-L-E. A staple food is the kind of food that's eaten almost all the time. Rice and noodles are staples here in Taiwan.
Yep, and the French baguette would be a staple on a French table. And if you're in Mexico, you would expect to find tortillas somewhere with almost any meal you have. It says they are often dipped in liquids and stews, kind of like a bread. People might pick up some soup or a stew with the bread. It's a very nice way to enjoy something like that by dipping it into a liquid. To dip, this verb means to quickly put something into a liquid and then to eat it, probably because we're talking about food in this case. Here's an example I'm sure you're all familiar with. Milton dipped his French fry into some ketchup. People at the hot pot might also dip their meat or vegetables into the boiling liquid just for a few moments, and then you take it out and you enjoy it that way.
You could also dip your finger or toe into water. It's like, oh, is it hot? Is it cold? How is this? But one of the things you can dip a tortilla into is a stew. A stew is any kind of food that's made by cooking its ingredients, particularly meat, but maybe roots and other vegetables as well. Carrots, You cook it slowly on a fairly low heat in a small amount of liquid, not a big soup amount of liquid, a small amount, and it is served in this liquid, which we would call a gravy.
Yeah, especially good for those sort of tougher bits of meat that if you cook them, they might not be so enjoyable to chew on, but you cook it in a stew and suddenly it is delicious, but it does take a few hours. It says if you visit a Mexican restaurant, and this is all around the world, you'll likely see tacos. Yeah, tacos are a very popular food. In fact, they're kind of a fast food these days. People think of tacos the same way they might think of hot dogs or hamburgers. What are tacos, though?
Well, we see in the article, tacos are tortillas folded around meat, beans, or cheese with a spicy sauce. And of course, as with a lot of these foods, you can change things out and put different things in. You might not always have all of these things. You might put in other things like bits of vegetables instead, add some other stuff on top. There's lots of ways you can eat it. The main point is that it's folded around that food, allowing you to pick it up and eat it. So to fold is basically to wrap something around something else, or sometimes someone else. Often you make a line in the thing that's being folded, like folding over a piece of paper, folding over the top of an envelope before you seal it up. With food, it's like getting the flat piece of food and folding it around the rest of the food. You could fold it to leave the top open, or fold it so it's completely covered. Both are okay. Here's an example of how we can use fold to talk about something around a person. Samson folded his arms around his crying daughter and gave her a big hug. We could also talk about folding our arms just like that. So we've got the folded tortilla, now called a taco, and it's got often some meat in there, some cheese in there. Beans are a pretty common food in Mexico. And often there is some spicy sauce.
Ah, yes, you can't have Mexican food without having something spicy in almost every dish. Something spicy is something that has a lot of chili pepper in it, probably, and it will give your mouth that hot, burning kind of flavor that a lot of people do enjoy. It might make you sweat, but it will also add flavor and enjoyment to your food. If you like to have Thai food, you might like it spicy. Certain types of Indian food can be very spicy. And actually
hot
from a lot of different hotter parts of the world. Yes, and of course there's the well-known spicy hot pot. If you eat something spicy, it might make you sweat. It might make your mouth feel like it's on fire, but it's really just the chemicals in those chili peppers reacting with your tongue. But if you enjoy it, good for you. Keep it away from me. I'm not so big a fan of the spicy stuff, but many people are. And a little bit's okay.
Yeah. So we've talked about tortillas. We've talked about turning a tortilla into a taco. Here's another way we can use tortillas in a dish. The article says enchiladas are another commonly found dish.
Absolutely. That is also Mexican food. What is an enchilada? These are tortillas wrapped around a filling and baked under a sauce. So over top, you might get a kind of tomato-y or salsa, cheesy sauce or something like that. You have your tortillas. Tacos are well known for being a food you can pick up and eat with your hands. Whereas with an enchilada, it's a little bit more filling, and of course, having the sauce, you'll probably have to use a knife and fork, but a lot of the ingredients are very, very similar. And both of these things, lucky for us, are available at almost any Mexican restaurant. You can find them. They're very, very wonderful native Mexican foods. And even in Taiwan here, you can probably find them at your local Mexican place.
That's definitely true. And of course, wrapped around a filling, there's that word filling again to mean the meat, the cheese, the extra sauce and spicy stuff it's cooked with, beans, cheese, whatever you happen to have. So the article then asks, is this article making you hungry? Yeah, probably
Kind of,
is.
yeah. It's late in the day. I wouldn't mind an enchilada. Sounds good.
Exactly. Now, we use the word article a lot. We're saying this article is about, this article is for this. Maybe we should take a moment to actually say what we mean by the word article. An article is a story that appears in a magazine or a newspaper. It could be a news story. It could be a feature on a particular thing. This article is a feature article about food, different types of food. Usually with an article, it's fairly short. It could be half a page, 1 page, 2 or more pages, but we're not talking about something the length of a book.
No, you might actually use adjectives, right? To say there's a long article in the newspaper, because generally they're shorter.
Exactly. A long article might go to 3 or 4 pages. A short article could just be, a couple of 100 words of print just down on the bottom of the newspaper. And you find them in magazines. These days you'll find them online. I go and find online articles, that kind of thing. And of course, our magazine has plenty of great articles. Here's an example sentence. Have you read this article about pangolins? They really need our help.
Oh, okay. Maybe in a nature magazine or a newspaper or something like that. Some good information there about our friendly pangolins. Back to the article. So, are you hungry? The idea of eating tortillas, eating tacos, eating enchiladas, or how about yesterday? Maybe you feel like a crepe or a pancake or a galette.
An amaretto crepe cake.
That would be good too. So, if the article has made you hungry, it says, if so, you should try a crepe or tortilla dish. Yeah, you can make them at home. I'm sure you can find 1,000 recipes online, or maybe go out to your local restaurant, Mexican place, a nice French place if you can find it, and enjoy yourself a crepe or a tortilla. Or even better, go have the tortilla for your main course and then go to the crepe place and have a sweet crepe for your dessert.
Nice.
You could travel around the world in one long meal.
Okay, well that is all the time we've got, except for our For You Chat question. Let's go there now.
For You chat.
Our question is, what kinds of pancakes can you find in Taiwanese cooking? We've looked at a very thin French one, we've looked at a savory Mexican one. What is Taiwan giving us for its pancakes?
Very interesting question. There is actually something here. I think it is kind of a crepe. It might have come from Japan or Korea, and you often see this place in the shopping mall. They take the crepe, they put the fillings in, either sweet or savory, and then they kind of fold it and wrap it so it looks like a triangle.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And you'll see people walking around the night market,
Yeah,
maybe eating it.
absolutely.
I always thought that was cool because you've created yourself a portable crepe.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure you'd find them like that in France. So that's
No.
a unique version, but definitely not Taiwanese. It's kind of a fusion dish, mixing cultures.
Of course, with the breakfast here, you've got your danbing.
More traditional.
Yeah, you've got your tongyobing with more scallions, the thicker pancakes.
Right.
Songcwabing, where it's been fried a little bit
Still
more.
lots of filling choices there.
Yeah, egg, cheese, corn, fish, kimchi.
Rosong.
Yeah, the pork floss stuff you can put in. All of those are different kinds of pancakes. And of course, if you go, I wouldn't say the Western pancakes, but you can find them here.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, Taiwanese cooking. They have the one I mentioned right at the start, that ice cream, Hua Shenzhen Binqiling. That's its name in Chinese, with the peanut powder, the Shanghai. Very tasty. I almost always get one of those when I see them in the night market. But there are probably others that we maybe haven't even discovered yet.
Sure.
Tell us about them. Write in. Comment on this YouTube video when we upload it. Tell us what we can go out and eat. Thanks for watching, everybody. For English for You, I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bon appetit. Vocabulary Review.
Confuse. My mom confused salt with sugar when she cooked the soup, so the taste was completely wrong. Northern. Not many people live in northern Canada because it's cold. Most live in the south where it's warmer. Stale. These cookies are a little stale. I think someone left the bag open for a while. Dip. Jill dipped her foot in the swimming pool to test the water's temperature before she jumped in. Fold. Alice folded the blanket around her body on that very cold winter day. Article. Jackie likes to read newspapers, and he especially likes to read sports articles.
智慧小补帖。
Cornmeal. Stew. Stew. Spicy.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net